Aki warmed up the crowd. Oh, now we're live, probably. Hi, everyone.
Yes. Greetings.
Thanks for joining this session. I was so excited about the previous discussion that I have to now switch my brain over to this session. But yeah, I don't know.
I can help you segue because I can help you make a sense of like what do the two pieces have to do with each other, right? So like people are gung-ho about how do we like get, obviously the conversation was motivated by people wanting to be successful at their work, right? So it's really about how do we help each other, help ourselves to be the most successful we can be with the work that we're doing, whatever our role is in this, because like we're here together at this meeting in these sessions because we're working towards a common goal of understanding how brains work and using these great technologies to do it. And so they're related, right? So this conference that we're trying to like make a good, successful conference is a way of helping each other to be successful. And that's what the organization exists for, no other purpose, right? It serves to bring us together. It serves for us to meet each other, to be able to share our best work, to create an environment where that is, where it's warm and welcoming and where people are safe to argue and to, say my way or your way, or like, let's test it. And so all of these things, we want a meeting that really supports and sustains that. And, mapping a human brain is a hard task. For those of you who are at Ted's talk this morning, he did a really good job of talking about sort of an endpoint that might resonate for a lot of people. Pradeep was talking about wanting to make a difference, wanting your work to matter, like, well, how do we get there? It's a lot of work. It takes an army, right? So this meeting really works to launch people and to motivate them and make them excited and want to work together. So anyway, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
So I was hoping to get ideas about like what future meetings should be like, because hopefully, we've been forced last year and this year into this kind of virtual setting. And it's been, good on some fronts. I think it's definitely reduced our carbon footprint, which is always a good thing. It's maybe made our science and our meeting more accessible to some people, people with young kids and people from some different or less well-funded labs, kind of linking it back to some of the things we were discussing in the last session. And so like, what should the future look like? Like, have we spent so much time at home that we just want to go back to in person and like the way things were, or should we keep some stuff?
Yeah, so I was laughing because when you said that about our carbon footprint coming down, because I saw a tweet go by, I think it's Russ or somebody put it up about how much carbon we were burning by all of us loading, when we were still struggling with Sparkle to load and everybody had all the tabs and, our computers were spinning and whirring. It's like, that's a lot of energy too. So I'm sure it's not, I'm sure if we added it up, it wouldn't be the same as an in-person conference, but it's not nothing, it is still, there's still some impact there. And so there is that. But I think, so let's just back up 1 second and just say we called this session together so that we could think together about what makes most sense for this organization and how it might support us and each other to do our best work. And so this version of the meeting, which is all virtual, is one version, and we can talk about what the pros and cons of that are. Old meetings pre-COVID were completely in person with, some recorded content that then was released subsequently, first to members and then openly to everybody. That's another model. And then what might, so there's this and there's that, but then there's a lot in between too. And so how do we be most open and creative? This group of people who come to these sessions are really some of my favorite people to see at the meeting and talk to at the meeting, because you don't look at the world only like the way it is, you think about what it could be. And so I see that my video is cutting in and out. I hope you guys can hear me okay, but
I haven't had any problems.
Okay, good. And so, part of this session is for some brainstorming about what it might look like. And I hope that we'll have a chance to hear from more people who are here and listening, or who might contribute ideas. I can tell you a little bit about some things that we already know as far as they can be known, because the world keeps changing on us all the time. And one of those is that we have, actually, I'm asking, can we post this, the link to this crowdcast thing to some more people? Because I think there's some people trying to get in. I'm getting a message saying that people are having trouble getting in. Is there a way to tweet? Can we tweet this link or something like that so more people can find it?
Do we know where people are? How can we share it more broadly?
Let's see. I'm gonna say.
Oh, the password. Maybe.
So I think I need to help me with the person who's texting me, because I think she knows too. So that will help. But well, I'll tell you what I will do to start with. I will make a plug for our newest special interest group, the Sustainability and Environment Action SIG. They're hosting a couple of sessions, roundtable sessions, in their lounge. One later this afternoon, a couple hours from now, and one tomorrow. And they're going to be talking about, ideas and just looking for post-COVID, what would a meeting look like. So there's a couple of venues that if people don't make it to this one, or they're watching a recorded version, or they have a chance to, not comment here, or they want to keep commenting more, or think about it and come up with more ideas. Those are other places to give some input. And then at the General Assembly, which is the session formerly known as Town Hall, which is going to be next week, and all OHBM members will get an email with a link to it. We'll report out what the statistics and the information, how many people came, what were the results of a survey that we'll send, so people can have at least a quick feedback about what people thought about what was going on, at least a few questions worth that people will be willing to answer. And there'll be some time for open discussion at that meeting as well. So that one, will be more broadly, have a chance for people to be given some notice to come. This one happened on really short notice, right? So if you're here, you're here. And if you're not, you're not. But that doesn't mean that we're not interested and we don't want to hear more from you. So I will say that. So lots of time for the community to have input. Lots of time for people to talk about what matters to them and what's working and not working. And I will say that of the input that I've gotten already, both from sitting in like the Student Postdoc SIG, where people telling me things, and sitting in the open, the leadership open house roundtables and messages and tweets and things like that, there are a lot of people who really value the opportunity that a dynamic online conference like this gives. And even though we're still having growing pains, that we're in a baby stage where we're crawling over still some technical bumps, there's still a lot that's really lovely about doing it this way. It's really allowed our communities to work closer together in all these different ways to make the meeting accessible and fun for people who might not be able to attend in person. And in the same breath, there's tons of people who are saying, I so miss being together. I just want to be back in person. And I really, my best collaborations came at this meeting, and my work is really fueled by, and my new grants came because, and if I can't get in the hallway and I can't be shoulder to shoulder and I can't see things in person and talk to this person, it's not the same for me. And so both messages are coming through really loud and clear.
But what does that mean? Because I think, a lot of people get excited about the idea of a hybrid meeting, but it makes me mostly nervous, because it seems like we can never quite get an in-person meeting, right? There's always either, the internet or the coffee or something. And, I think it's fair to say that we haven't quite gotten the online only meeting right yet. And so hybrid to me just sounds like a whole new world of pain, where we basically need double the people to kind of try and do a somewhat functional job at both. And so I wonder, there's been a lot of really good suggestions in the chat about maybe hybrid, but like at different times. Or one of the things that I thought about previously was like, maybe we should have alternating years where it's actually like 1 year is fully in person with like some on-demand viewing afterwards, whereas another thing is like fully, and then the next year is fully online, so that we also look at the environmental impact that we as a whole community have. And so what do you think about, and please, if anyone wants to kind of come join us up here, and if anyone has ideas that they want to share about hybrid ideas, we'd love to hear. So
I will tell you, so we've had so we know that this is going to be a really interesting transition from this year to next year. We've already had our first meeting with the Glasgow program committee, and they're super wonderful people and very enthusiastic, and there's a lot good about that venue. We did talk about how hard it is going to be to blend these two pieces together. And one thought that was lifted up, and this is not me promising anything, so do not write down, Randy said that this is happening, okay? I want it to be really clear. Here's an idea that was floated that is being explored, which is the idea that, how we know our meetings in advance a number of years, and we try to rotate between our different parts of the world. And so one thought was that if a site is selected to be a site for an in-person meeting, might they also host the hub for their area for the year before or after theirs, or for the years around theirs, so that a host site would have 3 roles to play. They would be an in-person one time, and then a hub 2 other times, or something like that, so that there would be a little bit of efficiency in organizing. But the hub would have so that's one thought that's being tossed up, that if you were willing to host a whole site, could you also do more? But that go ahead.
Sorry, can I just ask one question? So does that mean that it would only be like a global meeting every 3rd year or something, and then the other years it would only be local hubs?
It would be a global meeting every year, rotating the sites like we're doing, but augmented so that there would be also hub sites. So it's sort of there, and there may also be some virtual content, and it doesn't preclude having virtual content as well, but just that hub and spokes concept that, if travel to the distant place is not possible, travel to the more local place might be, right? And so then you get some local as well as, the global. So there, but every kind of degree gives you more complications and more expense, because there's no efficiency in having a hybrid meeting. It's double the work, double the expense, double the people doing double the work. And so it becomes a big lift. That doesn't mean it's not the right, good choice for our organization to make. It just means we go into it eyes wide open. We have, there's some chat going on that's a really important point, which is leadership went with the idea of the Sparkle platform, because we have the ability to collaborate with Sparkle on making this platform better over the years. And the costs come down as as our community builds out stuff and makes it the way we want, customizes it for our own use. We still have to stay in relationship to Sparkle. It's still a commercial, entity. We still have a contract with them. There's still expenses involved. Sparkle doesn't support all the things that we're doing. We still need another company that's supporting like the intense AV demands of this. And, for the live streams have been very successful, have never broken, have worked 1,000,000%, for this whole meeting, and are really a linchpin of what's going well. And all those recordings are coming in successfully. So all that content will be there. And so we will have costs involved with those things. But how to merge that with also being in person, where everybody's going to have an equally wonderful experience, that's a big ask. That's hard to think about what that would look like, right? And I have a lot of faith in particularly the community people who are listening and here and cheering, and thank you everyone, because the quality of our meeting has been really enhanced by the contributions of this group. And not everybody, we'll do our best to make sure everybody knows and appreciates that continuously. But it's going to be, a labor of love over time.
And I have to say that my virtual experience this year has been a lot better than last year, because last year it was just me sitting at my computer, and I realized how important the social interactions are. I thought those bits were just the fun bits, but I realized that actually when I'm having a chat with someone or lunch with someone or a beer with someone, that's actually when I'm like synthesizing the ideas that I listen to and like passively receive during the day. And like, that's when I'm getting creative with those ideas and actually like integrating them into my own research. And I so missed that last year. This year we're doing a watch party with my lab. So it's nothing like being around everyone and like getting to hang out with different people, but at least we're still having some of those discussions. And so I still feel like I'm processing some of the kind of new and exciting stuff that I'm seeing. So I do like the idea of local hubs, but I wonder if because I think there were always also some people saying, and like it'd be hard to miss out on seeing people globally because it is a global society. And so I still wonder if some sort of alternating pattern between some different, like maybe a global one year and then like in local, like an America hub or.
Well, you know, if we don't do them every year and rotate them, then somebody's going to get left out of not being able to go to the one when it's in their closer space, right? And one of the points that I just want to make is like so I don't know how many people know this, but the composition of OHBM membership, I think our email list is something around 10,000. Somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 people would come typically to any of our in-person meetings. About 40% of the people who come or more are junior people, grad students, postdocs, you know, like early career people. It's a very vibrant group. A lot of people come in those early stages. And that's part of what makes it very exciting to come together, because people are young, they're excited, they want to learn. It's also really sad to me if we don't keep the in-person piece, because us older people who are more experienced and comfortable moving around in a conference environment, we need the opportunity to mentor the people coming in the door. That's part of what this is for. When I come with my bigger group, whenever I come with junior people, it's my job to grab them and bring them with me. I take them to dinners. I go through the poster halls with them. We go to sessions together. We sit in the corner. I take them in and introduce them to people. That's part of the role of the conference, is to do not only the science, but the science socializing, right? That's how you network to get that next job. That's how you like figure out that next exciting project. And not being in person is a huge loss to that capacity. And, you know, in the last session, Katja was talking about open science is team sport. It's exciting. Well, that's what the conference is. It's team science. It's the excitement. It makes it fun. People love to go and travel and be in a new place. And if you can, you know, like you want that. You can't always. Some years you can, some years you can't. Sometimes your kids are little, but then they grow up and then you get to go again. And so, you know, having that as a partial answer is important, you know?
That's such a good point. And actually, I mean, I've had some of these discussions with other groups, and one of them, it came up that there's so little incentives in academia, and so getting to travel to a nice location for a conference and then sticking around is one of the very few like perks that we have in academia. And so maybe if we
like I've been trying to go to Seoul, Korea. It's been like, oh my God, I can't believe I finally get to go to Seoul, and I get to go with people that and you know, the other thing is friendships. Oh my God, I don't know how many of you were at the meeting when Carl Friston, he won the Glass Brain Award, and I recorded the clip from when he gave his acceptance speech. He said, and it was such a beautiful quote. He said, "I look around this room, and these are some of my best friends and my closest colleagues. And we look forward every year to seeing each other. You know, when you've been coming back for 20 years, these are your buddies. You were in the trenches together. Like, you remember when there was before FSL existed, and before, like, you know, you'll have your own version of what it was like. Those of you who are younger, of what it was like back then. You'll have your own back then. But, you know, the field moves fast, and it's exciting, and it's good to have buddies to like hang on tight, you know, because the rocket ship's going, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I miss the people there's so many people that I only see at OHBM, and I miss them so much. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Everyone, there is a poll. You can find it at the bottom of your screen. So yeah, please let us know which one you prefer. At the moment, the fully hybrid version is winning. And actually, Katja, I don't know if you want to join.
You guys are the most ambitious people in the planet.
Yeah, Katja, do you want to join and kind of, because Katja is suggesting a threefold structure where there's like a global, local, bigger hub. So not, I'm guessing not individual labs, but something a little bit bigger than that. And then also a virtual element, so like a three-way element.
If there's somebody who can say the chat, because I can't really be present with this conversation and like grabbing all that content. So is this chat savable and sendable?
This is all getting recorded. So yeah, the whole session will get recorded. But yeah, I think Katja, come join us. Tell us more about what you were thinking. Because I like the idea of a hybrid hub. I'm just worried that the people who will join virtually or be in a local hub will not be as connected to everyone else as they should be, and I'm not sure how we win that.
Yeah. So it also may take us a few cycles to figure it out. Like this was, there were, as we've gone through, I don't know how many of you, I had a lot of Sparkle access troubles, and I was one of those people who was like very patiently like waiting for things to load. And it's much better today. And I just want to give this huge shout out because I know there were many people involved in helping the Sparkle engineers to move forward with this. And so thank you. And there's still a lot more to do, right? We're still not all there. How to embed this in an in-person meeting where the people who are in the virtual space don't feel like second-class citizens. There are whole companies, professional companies, who are working on that. So there's going to be a lot of competition for that business. So overall in the world, we're just one little microcosm of a tiny little meeting that wants to do this. But tons and tons and tons of organizations are thinking about this because we're thinking the same thing that lots of people are thinking. That these are not novel thoughts to OHBM at all. And the nice thing about working with our exec office is that they serve a bunch of different, they have a bigger office with staff that help us, but those staff also work on other organizations or they have more staff that work on other organizations. So they go to professional meetings about running meetings. And so they come to us with a lot of really useful, they serve a bunch of different, they have a bigger office.
Oh, we've got some
staff that help us, but those staff
feedback.
Also work on other
I think
organizations or they have more staff that work on other organizations. So they go to professional meetings about running meetings. And so they come to us with a lot of really useful, they serve a bunch of.
Katja, we can't see you yet, but I'm guessing from the feedback
we've got some you. It's Katja and Roberto with their two laptops. Which one is got its
I know.
It's microphone.
There was also some comments in the chat about having some more, rather than having just one event per year, having some more like asynchronous events like satellite meetings or local events. So, which I guess is that just becomes a lot of work to organize, I guess.
Yeah, so one of the little thoughts we were having is like some smaller events where we could rent out our Sparkle social hall, social platform, virtual platform to folks who want to have smaller meetings and use this infrastructure, keep building it out, making it better. That's a thing. I think Pierre was talking about some amount of educational content, or educational offerings that might come staggered through the year. But there's a lot of competition for people's attention and time. And another thing just to notice is that a very high percentage of people who attend OHBM go to more than one meeting. This meeting there's very few of us for whom this is our main, most important and only meeting that we go to. Most people have a domain where they have like deeper expertise, like they're applying it to this or that, and they go to that meeting, and they come back here for the, to learn the things that are the cross between the clinical translational and all the different applications and the methods and the acquisitions, and the multimodality, and they come here because they can get a bit of everything and talk to a domain expert in all these different fields. But they also go to other meetings, and so we're competing for people's time. And so if we try to do too much too often, we won't get what makes it work is that 4,000 people who converge at a time for some days and really work hard together. And if we spread ourselves out, we lose that. And that is one of the key things that works. I would hate to see that go away. Not instead of, but in addition to. If we want to do more things, then it will take more resources and more leadership and more people working. And so, I'm all in favor of more people volunteering to do more stuff. I'm all good with that. But it does take more leadership and more work.
There's been a lot of discussion in the chat about the different costs of different versions. Like one of the big barriers for trainees and for people from, I guess, less well-funded lab and other situations are the cost of both the meeting itself and then all of the associated costs with the travel and everything. So do you think, like, in a hybrid version where if there are some people who could, if there was an option to attend virtually, could you distribute the cost such that?
So if you're saying, could we have a tiered system that if you're in person, it's one fee? Absolutely, that would make total sense. I mean, I can't speak for what everybody's going to say, but I'd be advocating like heck for that. I want to answer, Daniel had a question, which somehow my eye managed to capture, which is evidence that people go to multiple meetings. The answer is, for most postdocs and graduate students, they may not. Usually a lab can only afford to send someone in the early years to one meeting, which is why this meeting is so important, because they get to come and meet people in all the different fields and the applications, and it's really important for them. I'm talking about for people who continue on, who are the ones who are the faculty, the senior people who pay the full freight for their registrations, or who pay the full freight for their grad students and postdocs to come. Most of the people, when they move ahead in their careers, they will go here, but also other places, right? And so those more senior people tend to go to multiple meetings. So I should be clear about that. When you're early in your training, it is hard to get the support to go to multiple meetings. But that's an important point, because if we don't keep this meeting interesting, like if every graduate student, postdoc, and junior person who came to this meeting and loved it in their early years kept coming, we would have 20 or 40 or 50,000 members, but we don't. That's not what happens here. They go off and differentiate. I hate to make this, but we're like undifferentiated stem cells. We create these brilliant, we help to foster like this excellence, and then you go to your unique spaces, and then you come back periodically here when the time comes, right? And only a subset of people stay like in a really tight focus of what it is that we bring together here. And so that this meeting appeals to a broader group than the folks who stay year after year after year, who are the ones who then can become chairs and can become secretaries and can basically say yes when you want more stuff. Are the ones who then have to do the work all year round to make those things happen. So it's like, who is the leadership of that? And so that's why it's been worked so nicely to engage the open science group and the student postdoc SIGs, and that's where the energy is, and that's where the help and the vision for what will work comes from, and that's why it's really awesome to work together on this. Absolutely.
Totally,
I kind of went on some tangents, so bring me back if I didn't get what you did.
That kind of made me think, because I think more and more there's an enthusiasm of younger people to kind of contribute to the leadership of the OHBM, and we've seen that in lots of the special interest group. It's a lot of work, coming in as incoming chair. I'm sure you're already scared about next year and how much work it's going to be looking at ANA now. There's been some discussions. I'm incoming chair in the open science special interest group, and there's been some discussion there about maybe people should be getting paid for some of the work, the organizational work that they're doing, especially for younger people who are coming in, who it's a toss up between do you help organize some event, or do you write an extra paper? And
So here's my 2 cents. I have a giant V on my forehead for volunteer, because I'm one of those people who is always standing. I just finished a 3-year stint as the president of my temple, and I'm like, I've been serving on my institution's IRB for I can't even count how many years, and And, and pretty much all, I have a whole swath of stuff that I do that I get, I'm the co-director of a training grant that supports graduate students that's now in its 16th year. There's no salary in that for me whatsoever. So, I have a very strong feeling that volunteer is important. But what do I get out of it? If you look at my CV, it's a mile long for things that I've accomplished, that I've been able to do by collaborating and working with people and enabling them and mentoring them. Those things count. When you say, how do you get promoted in open science? What does it take to get tenure? You get tenure by doing things where you get national and international recognition for your contributions to something like this organization. That counts, right? And so being paid, that's, that I don't do this 24/7, right? I do this a piece of my time. And I'm grateful that, that our resources that go in from registrations and things like that help pay to have an executive office. So we actually have a staff who's day in and day out, 24/7, not 24/7, but 40 hours a week, or a little and more during these meetings. It's their job to do the stuff that lets these meetings and these events and all the things that we do happen smoothly and successfully, that keeps our website, fully functional and live, and supports, all of our volunteers' efforts. Is there room to create resources that more could pay to do more things? Absolutely, yes. We just have to have the model that works. So if we do go hybrid in a way, and we could have a much bigger footprint, and people, we can have a lot more people present, even at a lower rate than, a cost, then maybe that brings in enough resources to help, cover. I'm open to all the options. We have to model them. And I'm going to shut up because Katja jumped up here and you need to let her speak.
No, super interesting. I just was catching also up on the chat. Sorry, Janine, you wanted to say something?
Oh, I just wanted to wrap that up. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying, Randy, about how volunteering is such an important part, but I think it's harder for more junior people to do that because there's kind of more pressure to walk up I think there's less recognition of those volunteer efforts at an early stage in a career than there is at a later stage in a career, maybe. And so, yeah, I think that ties into the discussion we had in the previous session in terms of what things are valued when people go up for hiring and for positions. And so, yeah, just wanted to wrap that up. But Katja, do you want to talk us through your ideal future OHBM meeting?
Oh my God, there are so many things now. Just to catch up on what you just said, but would that make a difference if it were virtual or in person or hybrid? I don't think so, like this recognition thing or the volunteer work. On that volunteer work point, I wanted to say that I was so excited when I started as a PhD. I was so lucky that OHBM happened in Germany and my PhD was in Germany. So I was able to go. That was so exciting. And so I know how beneficial it is when you're just so young. I didn't know the heads of the people writing the awesome papers I was reading. So I was just walking straight up. And when I discussed with these people, then I realized, oh my God, that's the PI. Oh my God, I love their work. And then already the discussion happened and I was just there. And it's really amazing. One thing that OHBM in person does is having students volunteer to take posters down and up. That could be virtually like the same, like you give a bunch of people that could not come the opportunity to join OHBM, help you with your virtual setups and give them the opportunity to join this community. If they're afraid of stepping, like going to someone, they can still watch, and this is so valuable just to be there and also get a feeling how it works. And if ever there is a poster where there is only one person connected, you may actually end up talking with somebody that's so close to your own interests. That's invaluable, and that can happen in person as well as virtually. And I think it would be like back to that what I proposed earlier, these 3 structured model. If there's OHBM global organized and we have the means to go there, even if it happens virtually on the site, we do go because we love it and we will want to meet the people. So I don't think that there's any risk. And I hope that many people join or share this view. On the other hand, if there's local hubs organized, these local hubs won't be so dense that we risk of losing anyone, but it gives us the opportunity to have people in Chile, for example, where venues may not be big enough to host global OHBM, the venues may be able to host smaller communities like the South American or just Chilean community, and they could join OHBM virtually, just watching all the talks while we are also watching them if there is a live stream going. And then for the Q&A, if we don't have Q&A from our audience anymore that would be globally connected on spot, or registered and paid, then we can go take questions from them. And I'm sure that speakers are so happy, even if the time slot is over, to just jump on another call and connect with another community that is excited about their work. Like, there's nothing more exciting than people that are excited about your work.
Yeah. So having offline, discussion sections with the hubs, where the speaker would give the keynote, would give their talk, it'd be live and interactive, but then they could go and join a chat room or a virtual room with each of the hubs and answer questions in those times. Yeah, that's a really lovely model. That makes a lot of sense. All great ideas. Keep on coming.
Okay, I'm happy to go away from screen and give other people the opportunity to jump on.
So one of the other advantages of the model that you talked about is that, particularly in low-resourced places, where it's harder, like not everybody has, a top-end laptop with like super good internet. Having those little local hubs where like a university or something could sponsor, or a local company, maybe Siemens or Philips, maybe what they do is sponsor the local hubs where they actually provide, a really good projector and a good, good internet, and then people can come and see, where it's been hard for them to do in their own resources, So that's another way that it could help.
Yes, and I've also seen that, like in a group just in Max Planck Institute, there was a junior group being started that year that I started my PhD, and they had 7 interns and 2 PhD students or even more, and everybody was able to go to OHBM. And the next year, the PI had to choose some of the people that were able to go in person, and some others, they just had to stay behind because it's impossible to fund like 10 people at the same time. And if OHBM would happen virtually at the same time, these people could at least watch, and they're so, yeah. And also for the last point, if you're just like stuck home because of either like you got a baby or you just can't travel that year or something, then you can even watch it alone and just like pick people and connect with them on a one-to-one basis whenever it fits your schedule. And so I
agree with everything you said, except I wouldn't say stuck at home with a baby. I would say blessed to be home with a baby.
Yes. Sorry.
And it's like one of the things is those babies, they grow up and then they want you to go to meetings and leave them alone. So it's like,
Or like we have seen researchers bringing their babies to the conference, and that was also so beautiful.
Yep, I was one of those people walking around with my baby in a onesie. It's like,
that's another thing that maybe we can, even if we think about hybrids, we have this travel award system that OHBM has nicely put in place for students to come on site. And we can also offer to virtual sites. I know they won't be a core because you need to finance OHBM core people, and membership is being paid for that. But it would be nice if there could be a little special track for tech awards that people could just have, like for 1 week OHBM, they could upgrade their internet or something special like that.
Yeah. So for a parallel to the travel awards, instead of offsetting their it's $1,000 or $1,500 that you help people to actually have plane tickets and hotels and stuff. Maybe they're $100 awards that they could use to upgrade their internet for the meeting. That's a great idea. Let me write that down. Other thoughts is like this. There's no question that whatever we do next year will not be perfect any more than what we did this year was perfect. But I sure saw some really good talks and have had a lot of good conversations, at this meeting, even with all the bumps that we're having. And so, as long as people keep doing such amazing research and are so hungry to share it and interact around it, we should have a good reason to keep getting back together. And that's really the goal.
I actually really enjoyed the kind of the setup where there was much more time for panel discussions and Q&A rather, and like the shorter talks. I think both for the keynotes and for all of the other sessions, that I would love to see more of that in person as well. Just like allowing more time for discussion.
Especially when we have such gifted people like Ina and and Malar like doing the questioning with the speakers. That's like, like we're like really lucked out. They did it. Extra applause for those guys.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing.
And it's also what I appreciate so much. I was in the tech task force, and Alex Fornito is really, really an amazing leader of that effort. And we have seen so many platforms being demoed. They all had their downsides. I know of a parallelly happening conference that goes with one of the platforms that we also had considered but didn't go with. They have problems the same. They are complaining, their participants. It's just like the number of people probably, and then there's always things that we can do better. But what I really appreciated about OHBM, they were listening. They were not on board with Sparkle from the beginning, but they have considered it, and then they listened to everybody in the tech task force, no matter what our career stage is. I'm just a PhD student, and everybody was listened to, and then the pieces were puzzled together. And why they went with Sparkle, one of the biggest things is that they are open source, and we can keep going with them, and everything will become better while we go. So, and that's why also I have big hopes, and that we can make hybrids smoothly happening in the coming years for like a company.
From your lips to next year's meeting.
And big shout out also to the people that were working together with Sparkle, like Soichi. I have seen the word super Soichi circling around. I love it.
Yeah. So we will definitely have big shout outs, the closing session about that. And so if you guys come to the closing session on Friday, there's going to be a little video from the folks at Glasgow where we're, assuming the pandemic continues to gentle down and we are able to travel, that we'll have at least, the piece that will be in person will be there. We've already got the contracts and, stuff, at least we've got the outlines of the contracts. We're still trying to understand what the details will look like. So you'll learn some things there, but the conversation about, how to do hybrid-y thing, or, how much will be virtually, that's a very big conversation. And what, it basically changes the work of all of OHBM leadership from something that happens kind of like, okay, we're following a prescription, here's our plan, we have this meeting, and then there's we plan, we go. And instead, it was all, year long, there was just a lot of work to get us here. And it's, there's going to be a parallel for next year. And that's fine. I know what I signed up for. I'm good. I'm not going to run away. We'll do our best, and it will be me falling on the sharp edges of what doesn't work next year. And just I'll be saying I tried, but thank you to all the people who helped us go as far as we did. And each year we should keep getting better at the other end of this. But we don't. We're not going to run out of exciting and cool things to talk about. We're not going to stop having amazing advances in brain imaging research. And so, it's our job to keep that juicy and keep it fun and keep it exciting and keep people fertilized to do the next best thing. Because there's a lot of mental illness and there's a lot of brain disease out there and there's a lot of hurting people. And I'm counting on us to change that and to have an impact that really makes a difference. And so, we're not giving up.
There's some discussion about on the chat of what a hub situation looks like. Like I think because I thought of a hub as like everyone in North America might go to Chicago, for example, and get together there, so that I'm not traveling to Europe or to Korea, but I'm still getting to see quite a few different people, and it'd be a relatively large event. But I think it can all be all the way from that to like the watch party that I'm doing with my small little lab now. And so
it could be a little of both. Like the everybody goes to Chicago model might be that the host city, like for example, for this Glasgow meeting, it could be that Seoul, Korea, and Montreal, which would be the other two bits, right? That there would be one host hotel. Maybe it would be one of the hotels we would actually be using for the meeting when it's at those countries. And we would reserve a block of rooms, and we'd reserve one big like auditorium room or whatever. And everybody could come together there, and it would be live streamed, and you could chat with each other, but it wouldn't be the whole Monty. It wouldn't be everything, right? There would be you wouldn't do your posters there, and you wouldn't do there wouldn't be like vendors set up, and there wouldn't be a big party, and like it would just be you'd be together in one place. And but each of the hubs could decide what they wanted to do, right? But what would be OHBM and, funded, right, and supported? What would that look like? And like, how do we tier the costs of that? We would expense that differently than what the full, participation model at the main meeting was. And that would be different from if you were, what you were saying you do with your lab. That would be like being fully virtual, right? If you choose to host something in your own lab and with your group, you're not going to pay extra to OHBM's organization to support you in that. You just take that on yourself. The question is, what is the organization responsible for? What is our leadership group and our volunteers and our executive office? What is it our job to do for the community? And then that's where that's what we have to determine.
That's so interesting. And maybe a hybrid without a local hub, but with just global and like streaming wouldn't be that hard, because I seem to remember that all of the sessions were already getting filmed anyway, right? So it's essentially adding it's not straightforward. Obviously, there's going to be challenges with that, but some of the infrastructure at least is already, and now that Sparkle is already there, maybe some of that infrastructure is already there for us to build.
Correct, and that it's very likely so there will be a vendor we will have to hire that will have to be the one that manages those those technical connections for the streaming and for the recordings and all of that. But maybe we can find a vendor, whether the one we're using now, expands to be able to handle that capacity, or other ones grow up because this is such a common request, right? We are not going to be alone in wanting this. And it's interesting, if Sparkle succeeds with us, if we actually help them be successful, other groups might want to use their platform, and then their platform will keep getting better because they'll be supporting multiple meetings who want many of the same things. I mean, that was part of why they threw in with us and are suffering and working 24/7 these days to try and help us check all this code in.
And there's also, that's a very nice point. That's the idea that it's a company and they take care of the code base. It's not a bunch of volunteers. It's really something that will grow and improve on its own without us doing anything. And we had to get that started a little bit on a hard rail. But I want to echo Jarek that posted a very important message on the chat. So there needs to be like a little bit more expertise in OHBM leadership, focusing on this virtually part. Like a little bit, just to know what exactly we are looking for, because now Alex's team has worked on devising how the platform should look like, which features we need, which features we absolutely need, and which features like we can live without but would like to have, and all these priorities of coming up with what we actually want. And then was the other part, how does it actually have to look like, and everything from scratch. And so that that will become easier in coming years. Like basically, design is beautiful of the platform. No, there's nothing comparable. It's really nice. But I think it's important that what Jarek said, that there's not only volunteers jumping on a few weeks before with the code, but just like in OHBM leadership, somebody having an eye on that.
Yeah. So that's a really good point. And we tried. I have to say, we were trying to do exactly what you said. That was the intent. That was the plan. But that, that is part of the bumps. It's like, how do we make that look? Like that was the goal. That was where we were trying to go. And so it sort of worked and sort of didn't. And so we just, so we'll keep trying to make that better. Whether that's a formalization of another role, like there's both a program chair, whether we end up with having sort of say a dual program chair, so that there's a chair for the virtual and a chair for the on-site, and so that two different leaders are responsible for those components. If that really becomes a thing, that would have to really, that's at the level of the bylaws, and so council has to agree, and then we have to vote, and then the members have to vote, and so that is a process, as opposed to me saying, oh yeah, let's just go do that. So that like the task force we can just do, because that makes a lot of sense. And so this was like, but that's a great, if you guys are plus oneing the idea, like we should expand leadership to do that because this is a thing, then throw that in there, and I'll take that message, and then we can, and there's folks from council who are here with us now, and they'll hear it from me when I go back.
so maybe even like adding one, like rather than having two separate chairs, adding a technology officer or something like that on council, whose sole role it is to kind of look into that side of it.
Yeah. And the question is that a volunteer position that we elect, you know, like we elect our other officers? Is that somebody that we, you know, do we hire and pay a full-time consultant, or do we enhance this? You know, no, good. I like that answer.
Well, I think the needs of our community are not necessarily needs that, I think someone from our community knows best what would work, whereas I think a consultant might have some really good ideas, and it'd be great to work with someone like that. But I think, I mean, to me, we would need someone from the community to give that input.
So I'm going to give a minute warning, because I have to pop off, because actually Janine and I have to pop off because we are introducing the awards in the next session that starts in 10 minutes, and we have to go get on our Zoom channel.
Okay, and I just wanted to propose to get one other person on, but because there has been an interesting discussion about where to host next and how that could happen between like many people on the chat. So I don't know who to suggest to come on stage, but there's many ideas that may be interesting if you have the time to go through the last bit of the chat when you're one.
Yeah. So you guys are recording this, and you'll share it, and I'll find it, and we'll like scrape all this stuff out of there. And thank you for hosting this. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for letting me have this time with you guys. Don't leave me. Stay with me.
Thanks for the. I really enjoyed how positive and like exciting for the future this session was, rather than just a ranting session. So I think that was amazing. Thank you for all the amazing ideas.
Well,
thank you.
We're better together.
It was also very nice to see. You have a very positive energy. That's awesome, both of you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for jumping on as well, Katja.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. I guess we should just call, unless there's someone who wants to join, because I also have to go. So I guess unless there's someone who wants to jump on, I think we should just finish the session early. All right. Feel free to keep the chat going. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.